This rally is being brought to you by the Plus Party, which is a revolutionary grassroots organization. Our founding members saw the nonprofit way of doing things becoming more and more ineffective and have decided to choose a more revolutionary approach. The Plus Rally will be the first public rally that we've put on. We are wanting to have a more revolutionary approach because society convinced the majority of people that there are certain ways in which we should do things, which only plays into the hands of the oppressor, and we are not on the same side. This online prison revolutionary rally will first teach you that to reform is to change, yet there is no change without sacrifice. The oppressor is not going to willingly do what we need them to do because they don't want to hand us the power. Today, with this rally, we are going to show that we are starting the revolution, and with that, we will demand change. The mission of this rally is to change the mental conditioning of the people, leaders, and the language. Reform is no longer an option, and we must unite, educate, organize, and fight by any means necessary to do completely away with the mannerism of our justice system. We will establish a unified coalition of coalitions to move as one huge power force from state to state, inside to outside the prison, and from federal to state institutions. We're looking to add more boots on the ground to materialize this vision because we cannot continue with the same strategies as before. Next, we will have Shakur Abdullah, who is an Omaha, Nebraska-based restorative justice trainer and outreach specialist for the Community Justice Center. Shakur is a member leader of the Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network, which is composed of former juvenile lifers. Arrested at 16 years old, Shakur was sentenced to death at only 17 years old, and he has spent decades in prison. His goal is to help repair the harm he created and assist others accomplishing the same duty. Welcome, Shakur.
Assalamu alaikum, Hotep, Jumbo. What's up, everybody? I am here today, thankfully, after a very long trek through the correctional system that ended with a 41-year stay there. While I was there, I paid a lot of attention to the voting issue, particularly here in Nebraska. In 2005, the state of Nebraska had a lifetime ban on voting. It turned around in 2005. Now there is a 2-year waiting period for voting. I talked to a lot of cats as they came in and went out about trying to do something about the voting issue here, just given its importance. But I don't put much faith in the national election. I think all of us have seen far too much backdoor Santa Claus and going on with that type of election. But I do believe that there is a lot of good that comes out of your state and local politics. So the vote is important. Even if you think that you are broke, probably the most valuable thing that you still possess is your right to vote. After I got out in 2016, jammed out after serving a 65 to 82-year sentence, I immediately began to hit the ground running on the voting issue. Nobody else had did anything with it for like 12 years. So there was a senator, the senator that I live in his district, got interested enough, Senator Justin Wayne got interested enough to introduce a bill to try to do away with the 2-year waiting period, simply because it is an arbitrary wait. We talk oftentimes about double jeopardy. I can't really think of a scenario more appropriate for a double jeopardy argument. The professionals would say, well, Shakur, is not a retrial. That has nothing to do with a trial. This is pretty much a trial in public opinion where you can complete a sentence. And yet it is that very sentence that maybe occurred 40 years ago that the public will come back and say, well, your right to vote is still being denied. So Nebraska's solution was 2 years after completing parole. Your clock starts to tick. Your clock starts to tick immediately when you discharge custody. So I think that it is still wait that's too long. People should be put back on the same square as everybody else once they have been held accountable, served their time, and got out. So Senator Wayne has introduced that bill 3 times now. Obviously, with the current pandemic, what has happened is most of your legislatures have shut down. So the bill to do away with the 2-year waiting period here in Nebraska is going to be put on hold until the unicameral resumes and can take that issue up. I wanted to kind of begin where Carlos began yesterday by just talking about the Constitution. The 15th Amendment, in essence, says the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States, color, or previous condition of. Like the 13th Amendment, the 15th Amendment, although it may be eloquent in its presentation, there are some issues. The 15th Amendment, obviously, if you look across the country, states are all over the place in terms of when or if you ever get the right to vote after being convicted of a felony. Take Maine and Vermont. They are the only 2 states in the union that has no voter restriction. You can vote in jail, you can vote in prison. They still treat you as though you are a citizen in terms of your vote, which is obviously, at least for me, the most important point. Anybody convicted of a felony in the United States, you never lose your citizenship. So because citizenship is never lost, in my mind, you should be allowed to vote. Maine and Vermont does it. There are 3 other states, Iowa, Kentucky, and Virginia, where you are banned for life. You will never get to vote in those states. So, look at those 2 contrasting ends of the spectrum. One end says you get the right to vote regardless. The other end says that you get banned for life simply because you have a prior felony. Again, it's not that you have gotten out, committed another offense, and they are saying, well, hold up a minute, you got this new offense. Nope, they're saying based on an old offense, like I say, that could be 50 years old. They will still say that you can't vote. So the citizenship part of this begins to be critically important to me. Your citizenship is never lost. Because of that, is my opinion that the Maine and Vermont model is the one that should be streamlined for the nation. So again, I read the 15th Amendment. It seems to guarantee the right to vote. This, like so many other amendments, were enacted after the ending of slavery, just to give people rights. So it would seem on its face that the 15th Amendment would have allowed me to vote immediately upon discharge. It did not, because the state of Nebraska had made a law that prevented me from doing so. So what the 15th Amendment gives, the 14th Amendment takes away. The 14th Amendment gives states the right to craft laws, such as what I'm talking about right now. A state can craft a law that prevents you from voting, even though the 15th Amendment seems to guarantee it. Just to kind of run through the quick list of states, there are states that you can vote. Once you are released, uh, 11 states including apply for restoration of voting rights before you are allowed to vote. The bulk of the states, 20 of them, Nebraska included, only allow voting after the completion of the full sentence. So the voting issue is really important to me, especially when I look back at history and just see how people have been treated, particularly African Americans, in association with the vote. Many people have lost their life trying to exercise that right to vote. So it is important. It is important enough for some people to want to kill you over. It is another barrier that is placed in front of returning citizens. That is the term that I like to use. Not inmate, not prisoner, not any of those things. Again, our citizenship is never lost as a result of a felony conviction. I say that what we have are incarcerated citizens, returning citizens. Language begins to be important. It is what shapes in our mind conceptualizing things in our mind. So when we use some of these terms, it begins to oftentimes allow us to marginalize people. Oh, well, it ain't nothing but a bunch of inmates. Look at how, even right now during this pandemic, how many of these confinement facilities, whether it be a jail or a prison, many of them will become coffins, only because people there have been marginalized, minimized, tossed away, thrown away as being less than somebody else. And that should not be the case. Nobody should be sentenced to death by COVID-19. No employee that is employed to supervise the employed to death by COVID-19. Everybody's life is important. I think we have a long way to go to get there. Voting is one of those instances that begin to allow people to, I guess the fancy clinical term for it is reintegrate back into society, and it begins to be a positive pro-social activity that engenders people to abide by the law. Basically, all that means is that ain't nobody recidivating, ain't nobody going back to court or going back to prison once they begin to engage in that right. The United States has the largest prison population anywhere in the world. Consists of 5% of the world population. However, 25% of everybody locked up anywhere is locked up right here in the United States. The United States has a 76% recidivism rate. It is the highest in the world. 7 out of 10 people in a 3-year period that are released from prison are going back to prison. That doesn't sound like a formula for success to me. I think that there are numerous things that should be done to correct that. Recidivism begins to be the cornerstone or acid test to determine how effective whatever you are doing in terms of correction is. I think voting plays into that just in a restorative way. And it is something that should be pushed throughout the nation, just in terms of, again, these are incarcerated citizens that are one day going to return and be your neighbor. I am going to conclude by also suggesting that, look, you have to be armed with the right knowledge. Oftentimes people say that knowledge is power. I say knowledge is potential power. It depends on what you do with it, how active you begin to act on that you know. You can know everything there is to know in the world and not do anything with it. Nothing ever changes or gets resolved. I am Shakur Abdullah with the Justice 15 Vote Initiative out of Omaha, Nebraska. Just a brother trying to give a face to the faceless, a voice to the voiceless, and give hope to the hopeless. If I can, you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Shakur. Very valid points you make there. The next speaker is Kwame Shakur. He is the Deputy Chairman of the New African Black Panther Party, Indiana branch. Kwame?
Prior to the people. I'm Deputy Chairman of New African Black Panther Party, Indiana branch. As a lot of people say that we just had a demonstration down here in Indianapolis where we took over the streets. It's been, broadcasted over national news, world news. But this was a different type of takeover of the streets. This was a different type of shutting down of the streets. We've seen different movements in the past, but we ain't seen a lot of movements about that, teach the people a class struggle. When we took over the streets, it was about a new strategy. Because we've had a lot of people that, like the brother Shakur Abdullah, that believes voting is a, fundamental part of change in the community. I always say we should always respect each other's beliefs and positions, political lines, because at the end of the day, we got to find common ground. One of the problems in the revolutionary movement, sometimes revolutionaries don't work with people that have reformist ways of looking at it, and sometimes reformists don't have, don't want to unite with revolutionaries. You know what I'm saying? But we have many of the same common goals. We got to find common ground. With us being a Marxist Leninist mouse, we look at unity, struggle, unity. We try to start off with a basis of unity. We work out our difference behind closed doors, and then we have a higher leap in unity. I always go back because we're historical materialists. We have a scientific socialist approach to revolution. Make no mistakes about it. The New African Black Panther Party, United Panther movement, we're revolutionaries. But we have a scientific socialist understanding of revolution. You know what I'm saying? So what does this mean in historical context? When we look at Martin Luther King started off in 1973 with a dream. That's really where most people's minds start and stop off. And we was conditioned to feel like this in American society, but it was for a reason, though, that we stopped in 1963, Martin Luther King, and we didn't proceed on to the 1968 Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King in 1968, this is the Martin Luther King that was trying to take on the poor people's campaign. He started to see that it wasn't a civil rights issue. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a voting rights issue. It was a capitalism issue. He said that, racism is a byproduct of capitalism. Militarism is a byproduct of capitalism. This was a qualitative leap in Martin Luther King's consciousness, where he went from civil rights and voting rights to class struggle and human rights. That's the reason why they really killed Martin Luther King, because he started to understand, like, the fundamental thing that's going to change this system is to first start with the problem, and that's capitalism. It's not voting. It's not us having the right to vote. We can all vote. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's not going to fundamentally change the system by its core. So that was the height. That was the height of the civil rights movement. Then we fast forward to the Black liberation movement, and we get to Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton played a large part of my consciousness when I was in prison. I started doing a lot of reading on Fred Hampton. He started me on the trajectory of where I am now. Like I couldn't have got to Marx and Lenin and Mao without going to the Black Panther Party. They were the first one to, and I had to see myself reflected in people that I could identify with. But Fred Hampton, when he brought about the Rainbow Coalition, which was the height of the Black liberation movement, he started to understand and teach the people that we had to show the people it's a class struggle. You dig what I'm saying? And he united with the Young Patriots. You know, the Young Patriots was an organization that had swastika flags, Confederate flags, my fault, Confederate flags. But they were, one thing they were grounded in was that they were recognized there was a oppressed community and that the system was oppressing them. But somehow, but because of that oppression, and this is a white supremacist system, you know, they internalized that and they still carry their white supremacist flags. But he united with them. That caused a lot of controversy in Rainbow Coalition, you know, because a lot of people, they was like, we're Black Panthers, the only thing we care about the Black community. But in this process of the Rainbow Coalition, when he united with the Young Lords, you know, Jose Chacha Jimenez, who's still he was the founder of the Young Lords, still alive today. But he united with nationalities across all nationality lines. And he put forth the class struggle first, you know, because we're all being oppressed by this same system of capitalism and imperialism that's grown into a, you know, global empire of domination. You know what I'm saying? So within this class struggle that he was teaching the ones in the Rainbow Coalition, they started to realize that the problem wasn't really white people. It was capitalism, which was they gave rise to the necessity of white supremacy to maintain itself. It was a fundamental pillar of this system. We go back to 1676 with Nathaniel Bacon Rebellion, you know, without like uplifting this individual that used to be a part of the upper class, you know, the lower class people had united. Black people was slaves at this time, and you had white people was indentured service, but they was on that same plantation. But they came together and saw common unity because at that time, white supremacy hasn't been institutionalized in the systems within its superstructure. What we mean by superstructure, we're talking about the politics, the laws, the cultures, the values, the morality, all those different things. It hadn't been institutionalized. White supremacy was an invention that capitalism needed after this Nathaniel Rebellion. That happened, like I said, 1676, where the lower class that was on the population, which were slaves and indentured service, rose up in rebellion and defeated the enemy. They defeated Jamestown. They overthrew it. Circumstances led to the reversal. This ain't a historical thing about that. I'm only want to emphasize the class aspect. The ruling class at that time, they had to institutionalize white supremacy for that to never happen again. You know, so they had in the laws, they started to institutionalize it in different manners. You know, where white people and black people weren't, on the plantation no more. Now, white people are nominally free, and they could help be the oppressors over the black population that was now had a monopoly over chattel slavery. You know, so they started to pit the white population against the black population that they had just formed a union with. That came about because we understand that in the New African Black Panther Party, as Marxist, Leninist, Maoist, every state, every government is a class dictatorship. We look at, like I was recently out there giving a talk because I try to use metaphors to help, you know, the lower class population to understand some complex things that might have took me 20 years, 18 years in prison to understand. Yeah, I did 18 years in prison. All my education came from them iron behind them iron gates and walls and brick walls and stuff. You know, and us in the New African Black Panther Party, one of our tenets is that we want to turn prisons into schools of liberation. Well, for me, our chairman Shaka Zulu and our defense minister Kevin Rasheed Johnson, that's what we did. So some of these complex things took us a long time. So for the public when we only have a few minutes to talk about here, we use metaphors. I like to use a lot of metaphor. I look at the Democratic Party and the Republican Party as the vanguard party of the ruling class. The goal of this dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, the capitalists, the imperialists, the 1%, the board of directors, the corporations, the financiers of this system, this is their vanguard party to oppress the masses of all nationalities, no matter if they're Black, Hispanic, Native American, Chicano, you dig what I'm saying, lower class white people. This is their vanguard party that they use the state for to maintain this dictatorship so they can profit off of this new form, this modern form day of slavery.
Yo, you on mute, brother.
It was the, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So in the South, it was a different form of dictatorship. It was the slave-owning class dictatorship, but it formed a coalition government of capitalists and slave owners to maintain the dictatorship over the lower class population of slaves and working population. That's what a state is. You know what I'm saying? That is the actual material conditions of oppression that we all face. Now, us in the New African Black Panther Party, we form a different vanguard party. We form a vanguard party in the United Panther movement. We form our own rainbow coalition internally of White Panther organization. We have a chairman over that. We have a chairman over the Brown Panther organization. We have the New African Black Panther Party chairman, as I said, is Chaka Zulu. Well, their dictatorship is to maintain their oppression of misery, is to maintain their oppression of division amongst the lower class, maintain their oppression of poverty, war, of sexism, patriarchy, of the bigotry against immigrants, of climate, destruction of the climate, continually having wars of empire. That dictatorship is going to stay in place. You can't vote that out. You know what I'm saying? You can only rise up in revolution and join the Revolutionary Vanguard Party, a united front, a rainbow coalition. That vanguard has a different purpose. That vanguard is to liberate themselves from these slave masters, no matter if we was back in the days, chattel slave, slave owning, or it was capitalist. Today, we're predominantly, and especially the United States, is a capitalist dictatorship. Everything's about serving those individuals in that top 1%, you know, to expand their system of profit. It's expand or die. So oppression is going to continue to exacerbate as this global system of oppression starts to go further and further and maintain its hegemony around the world. You know what I'm saying? So for us internally in the United States, in the peace, our vanguard party is not to try to vote out them because they're going to do what they supposed to do. We have to act in accordingly to our class interests. And this is what Fred Hampton, this was the Black Panther Party was about. This is what the New African Black Panther Party is about. The United Panther Movement is about, is bringing that class awareness of the nature of the state. You know what I'm saying? And us rising up within this vanguard leadership to overthrow our slave masters and to have a system that's going to really truly be in the interest of all humanity. You know what I'm saying? And you can't do that by collaborating with our enemies, with the slave masters. Like I said, everybody have their own awareness and consciousness. Everybody have their own political lines and stuff like that, but we're all the people. You know, brother Shakur Abdul, I think many of us probably can work together, even though we might differ on how we see the problem and solution. But we will always, you know, strive for a comrade, especially ones that say they represent a voice of the community. You know, look into what we say when we say that it can't be reformed away. It can only be overthrown through revolution. So the question now is, if Martin Luther King said capitalism is a problem, if Malcolm X said capitalism is a problem, if the Black Panther Party said capitalism is a problem, if all three of them said socialism was the solution, even though Martin Luther King was a democratic socialist, he didn't have that qualitative leap. They killed him before he had made a qualitative leap that I believe was going to come. But when we look at what Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party showed us about scientific socialism, it took our class contradictions in this country to another level. So now what you see with the new African Black Panther Party, we are the second generation coming out of that movement, this mass movement. You got Chairman Fred Hampton, Comrade Chairman Fred Hampton with the Black Panther Party Cubs. He's pushing that same line of contradiction. You know, I'm not saying that the new Black Panther Party has a monopoly over what vanguard leadership is about. So we have to form a united front of all revolutionaries that understand this scientific socialist line. But this is the only way forward that we're ever going to get liberated. We have to have a system that is made up of the people. You know what I'm saying? And this new government, once we come to power, is going to be truly representative of the proletariat, not only in the United States, but worldwide. And that's what we say the new African Black Panther Party is a problem and what is the solution.
Thank you, Kwame, for that information. Next up, we have Comrade Stephanie. She is Secretary of Health and Wellness of the United Panther Movement New Work Chapter. She will be speaking on one of the most revolutionary social activists, Assata Shakur, and the empowerment of women in the revolution. Please welcome Ms. Stephanie.
All power, everybody. All right, as she said, I'm going to be speaking about Assata. Assata is my favorite revolutionary. So when she asked me to speak about lady revolutionaries right away, I already knew that's who it was going to be. Assata was born July 16th, 1947. Her slave name is Joanne Chesimard. She was raised between North Carolina and New York City. The time she spent in North Carolina was with her grandparents, and they owned a store in Myrtle Beach. And in New York, she lived between her mother and her aunt. She had several attempts where she ran away for a time period, and she learned valuable lessons when she ran away because she just always was a free spirit. I think that's what it was. And when she couldn't see eye to eye with her mom, she would just venture out. And that speaks to how fearless she is. I just feel like the characteristics that she possesses are all the characteristics that you want in a revolutionary. She was courageous, fearless, and thorough. In her journey to become a Black Panther Party, Panther Party member, and also she was part of the Liberation Army. She, in her first year of college, she played around with learned about many different organizations, and she found things she liked, things she didn't like, and she ended up at the Black Panther Party. Okay, next, I would like to talk about her, the stints that she did in prison while she was awaiting her trial. They did their best to try and convict her in the media before she even stepped foot in the courtroom for her trial. People, as a matter of fact, when they were selecting the jury, they already said when they would ask them, they started to ask the questions in a certain way to elicit certain answers, because people were answering that, yeah, they already thought that she was guilty. And the trial was so publicized in their witch hunt for her that people already had their minds made up. People thought that she was much bigger than what she is because she's a pretty petite woman. But even when she met people in prison, that was something they said, boy, I thought you were much bigger, much darker skinned. Like, they were just surprised to see this little person for how she had been portrayed in the media. And, they tried to link her with any crime that they could link her with, even one, and none of them was she even present for. And also the crime that she did go to jail for, she was convicted pretty much as an accessory, not because of what she did, because when they looked at the evidence, it was clear that she couldn't even have shot the person. As a matter of fact, the cop that got shot, they he wasn't even, they had a recording of the stop on the turnpike, and when they called, there was no record of that officer even being present. And then his body was found several hours later, so it seemed like it was a plant. There was no gunshot residue on her fingers. The trajectory that the gun took, that the bullet took when it entered her, it was from the back and under her arm. So her hands had to be raised, and the expert witnesses testified to that fact. So, you know, it was just a witch hunt all around. I believe when they stopped them on the New Jersey Turnpike, they already knew that was a car full of revolutionaries, and this was just an excuse. So, you know, I think it was really courageous of her to even attempt to get out. And I'm sure that there's the security is much tighter because of her. So escaping prison will probably be much more difficult now, but I'm sure she didn't do it on her own. She had a lot of help from other revolutionaries to pull this off. It is a tremendous feat, but she fought her way out. She did what she had to do. And we have to do the same thing for our brothers and sisters that are currently incarcerated, because they are, you know, dying in there. And it's the perfect breeding ground for a disease like COVID-19 to ravage you. They have close quarters, unsanitary conditions. It's impossible to social distance them under those conditions. And that, as a matter of fact, our Minister of Defense, Kevin Rashid Johnson, he is running a hunger strike that he's been doing since April 15th. And he has up to 300 participants. And the reason for the hunger strike is they have had a failure to take action to safeguard the health of the prisoners in terms of nutrition. They have been giving them sack lunches with little, you know, nutrition. You need vegetables and fruits, things with certain vitamins and minerals to build up your immune system, and they're not getting anything like that in there. So that's been pretty successful. He has a lot of support with the other prisoners behind him, but as a result, they are starting to mistreat him, of course, as they do revolutionaries in jail. The conditions are already horrible, but it's tenfold for revolutionaries. And Assata underwent some of the same types of things. They would come to her cell, a lot of them at a time, the whole time, even when she was hospitalized, when she was injured, they would re-injure her. They were throwing her around even in the courtroom. She went through all types of violence in the jail, and even throughout her trial. She was pregnant. They tried to withhold proper medical care. She had to hire her own doctors so she could get her suitable medical care. And, you know, she just really got lucky at times with the representation that she was able to get, and the doctors that she was able to find. They had to bring them inside the prison, but they made it difficult at every turn for her to do what she needed to do. But, and now, even now, they're still after her. They want to bring her back. They put a bounty on her head. Governor Christine Whitman did it. Christie recently still trying to get Cuba to release her. And, you know, it's just crazy. But it's like, to them, I guess it's just a total affront to them, and like her thumbing her chin at them like, oh, I got away. I killed one of you and I got away. And, you know, even in, you know, while she's in prison, they're probably looking at her the same way. You killed one of us, when, you know, she didn't even do it. It's totally a frame up and a manhunt. So I want to bring this around to one of our 10 points that really speaks to everything that Assata went through. And point number 9 is we want freedom for all Black and oppressed people now held in U.S. federal, state, county, city, and military prisons and jails. Furthermore, we want trials by a jury of our peers for all persons charged with so-called crimes under the laws of this country. And this is imminent now because of COVID-19. We really need to get them out, because I've been hearing on the news I saw the other day, in addition to it being close quarters in there, they're what you call now super spreaders, that they say can infect someone just from talking within seconds. Because before they were kind of indicating it's more like people that you kind of have to be in constant contact with people. And the mode of transmission is droplet nuclei. When you cough, when you sing, when you laugh, anything that those droplets, when they come out, you know, you're at risk of being infected. And the masks do help, but they only work if, you know, everybody is wearing them, but they're not foolproof because it's not enough masks to go around that are of the proper type. Okay. All right, and I just want to end with Assata's, this is my favorite quote, and it's a chant that's used a lot. And it is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Thank you so much, Comrade Stephanie. Our next speaker is Roscoe Wallace from Nebraska. He is currently involved with educating the youth as a youth advocate. Mr. Wallace was in and out of prison over 22 years before he changed his life and is now dedicated on changing the mindset of our youth. Please welcome Mr. Wallace.
How's everybody doing?
All right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. I want to discuss two things. One is healing, and the other is mission. And I'm hoping that it'll tie into some of the things we talked about. I think healing's a big thing, and something that's underlaying a lot of our mission. If we're not able to heal, our mission is not going to be clear. And give you a little background of myself. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. Spent maybe about 25 years in juvenile facilities, state prison, federal facilities. And through that journey, I learned a lot of things. Very, very angry young man. Started out angry. I mean, I was even angry at my own people because of the color of my skin. I was discriminated against and abused within my own family, just being light-skinned. So I understand that when we talking about discrimination and different things, it takes on a different face, even the abuse. I talk to a lot of the kids. Some of the abuse that we suffer comes right from our family first. If you got a big nose, your family gonna be the first one to tell you. And then you go out into society and they confirm it. And so me having to deal with that abuse, I grew up a young man that was very angry, called yellow banana, yellow piss color, different things of that nature. And that anger, led me into a life, of violence, and that life of violence left me into group homes and youth centers and prison. And that's where I met my beautiful brother, Shakur, and that's where I want to talk about healing, because I'm here in mission and I love it. I love the passion, and this brother can attest to that. We come from that, seeing the oppression, living it. And, coming from Omaha, Nebraska, I was born in the same hospital Malcolm X was born in, University Hospital. And I like to feel that I have some of that, passion in me. And when I was 19 years old, I was sent to our state prison. A lot of guys was afforded the opportunity to go to reforms and different things. I went from group homes to youth centers straight to our prison at 19 years old, where I met Shakur, had been there for a while, lifer off of death row, and I didn't meet him right off. I was affiliated with Blood Gang. And when I got there, the lifers, and a lot of the brothers from the, Panther era, it was like, who's these guys, man, with this, this gang stuff? Because, we decimated the communities. The Panthers was enhancing the communities. They were enhancing and uplifting our women. We were decimating and putting them down. And I realized that when I came in them prison doors and met brothers like Shakur, that told me what the struggle was really about. And I really glorified putting holes in my brothers, shooting them. I glorified that. And when I got there, them brothers said, man, you worse as the Klan. So I got an understanding, but I hadn't healed. That anger, that frustration, and still dealing with law enforcement, seeing the profile and all that different stuff. And I'm a mixture of different skins. So what I learned to do in my healing is I had to love myself. I had to find some love for me. And going back to the Malcolm part, when I met Shakur, that was the beautiful thing, because they introduced me to Malcolm. And I'm like, really? I thought, it was from Lansing, Michigan somewhere. No, this brother was born in Omaha, Nebraska, raised elsewhere. So in studying him, I learned two different Malcolms. I learned that Malcolm read with that fire, you know, telling the white person, no, get on somewhere. You can't help this cause. And then I learned that Malcolm that took his Hajj, came back from Mecca, and his mission didn't change. But he said, you're welcome to help. So what we have to understand is that in our mission, we have to heal to be able to invite. If we want to incite, we got to invite. We don't have no room to push nobody nowhere, especially right now, when you got 46% of white voting white. They ain't voting right. Because if we was voting right, dude wouldn't be doing what he doing. They voting white, and that's a fear. So there's a fear on the other side, like we have fears. We got to tap into theirs and say, hey, listen, just like you talked about the slave and some of those Europeans that wasn't far off, they were able to come together and find some commonality. We got to seek those same people. I work around here. I'm in Sioux City, Iowa. I work in South Dakota. And a lot of the whites that I work around, man, you know, I mean, they want the same things I want, but they Trumpians. And they see me as a threat. And I'm in management. I'm a big threat because I can think. But what I do is I still welcome because I've healed. And I know something wrong with you, bruh. You my brother, but something wrong with you. You holding on to this hate, just like the same one at the top. Still keep talking about this brother that's gone. So instead of inciting that, you know, we got to find a way into the hearts and minds because they out there to move this agenda. Don't change it. Because what I look at is called incentive-based. Even when we're talking about our brothers and sisters incarcerated, if we're talking about solely just freeing them, man, we're not going to get heard. But if, like Shakur said, we also add the dimension of COs and administrative people, then they see some incentive. And that's what we have to start doing, find them creases and get in them. But if we take a real stance, you know, a real a revolutionary stance in the way of saying, this is the way we coming. We don't need no help. We don't need no more firepower. Because guess what? On the other side, they saying the same thing. And I live up here in an area where I see it constantly. I live around a lot of my Caucasian brothers and sisters, and my heart stay open. It stay open. And I'm not gullible. I'm blessed. Because that anger, I don't have it. I'm wondering why they got it. When all this depression you've been putting out, all this, why you got it? We still dying for nothing. Why you got it? So I'm blessed. And being around the brothers like Shakur, that's healing. 41 years. And just to talk a little bit about the reentry part, this brother had to see me come and go about 5-10 times. I don't know. Didn't get one chance. And I'm back and forth. And that's because I hadn't healed. Let me tell you something. I got an education. This brother tell you that. Harambe, Toastmasters, good speaker. But I got back out and sold dope. Got tired real quick. Because it wasn't so much of what I learned and how I prepared for the probation, for parole and the parole board. It was those things that I had created in my life that I was suffering from that took me to prison that I didn't even deal with, even try to deal with, too traumatic. And it's like a lot of us brothers and us men, black men, all of us, we have these issues of mental issues that we don't ask for support. To ask for support is to be vulnerable. We don't do it. We won't do it. And so we suffer in silence. And then we come back out, we deal with the woman that we have abused. Think she's supposed to just fall right in rotation. The kids that we ain't spent no time with, we come right back out, daddy home. The job we go to, that you said we need to get a job, we go there, man, these people acting all racist and act like I'm finna take some, this, that, and the other. Who do I have to talk to about these issues? So we gotta have some mental support in there so these men can deal with these issues, and we gotta have them in a group when they come home to challenge each other. Or we're gonna keep on having reentry because we're not dealing with the mental aspect of actually the things that sent us in there, the drugs, the womanizing, just the feeling of hopelessness because of how we're being treated out here by law enforcement and everybody else. So we go up in there and all we did was time. And we come back out and and the people that love us is wondering why. He was doing good. Probation officers, I thought he was gonna make it. You know how I know all this, man? I heard, I lived it. Almost an expert on it. So what I'm saying is, if the reentry programs don't have any type of mental support where these men can support each other, Shakur deal in a program where it talks about, you know, basically a mental hygiene. This is big. I talk to the kids about it. They suffering on the other side because daddy, mom's gone. They don't really know how to process this stuff. And guess what? Us adults don't know how to process some of this stuff neither. So in conclusion, you know, I'd just like to say, you know, stay passionate and lead with your heart. Trust your heart, even in these troubled times. And I believe change will follow. Thank you for listening, y'all.
Prior to the people to that, I want to respond because I'll say about 90% of what the brother just said, I agree with. I don't know if it was a little confusion, so I wanted to speak to that. You know what I mean? But 95%, I salute you, brother. 100 solidarity, brother Shakur
Thank
Abdullah.
you, brother.
You know, solidarity with you. Even one thing I realized a long time ago, we always have to respect each other's views. You know what I'm saying? And find common ground. We're not the enemy. White people is not the enemy. White supremacy is the enemy.
That's right.
I just wanted to say that because some people get the new African Black Panther Party confused with the new Black Panther Party. And I'm not even saying all of them. I don't know all their line. You know, I'm just speaking in behalf of the new African Black Panther Party. We have two arms of our Rainbow Coalition. We got our White Panther organization, which has its own White Panther organization that have its chairman. We got the Brown Panther organization, that has comrades, the Latino, Native Americans, all this, various different nationalities. We're united. That's why I was using the example of capitalism. A lot of people blame, white supremacy and put it before capitalism. No, it's capitalism that gave rise to white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? We unite. Like, we just took over the streets out here in Indianapolis. Everybody saw it all across the world. But one thing, the Panthers did here, we held a people assembly. And we allowed everybody in the community to speak. All some people see is that, they took over the streets in Indianapolis and they was rowdy. Nah, you got to be out there and see what we did. We drove off we was making a statement. You know what I'm saying? We're not going for it no more. You're not going to keep on killing our people in the streets. They killed 4 people that day within the 24-hour period. Drayshawn Reed, 21-year-old brother. He was a military police. They killed one of their own. But all they saw when he took off that uniform was a black skin. That was his weapon, his real weapon. I'm not gonna get into the facts of the case. You can watch, jump on Kwame Shakur Facebook page and see the facts of the case. They also killed Mikael Rose. He was young. I think he was only like 19 years old. He was responding. That post-traumatic stress that you spoke to, brother, that's what we demonstrated with this brother. He was demonized by the press, you know what I mean? But he was reacting in the only way he could do so is make a statement with his own life. He put himself in a situation where he knew the pigs was gonna kill him, but he was trying to make a statement. No matter if I take the bullets out this gun and I'm over here and just waiting for the police, he called the police to come to the scene. They came over there and gave him what they give the average black person with any gun, no matter if they're legal or not, no matter if it's a threat to them or not. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the movement a long time. The other situation, so he was making a statement. And we have to look at that. No matter how irrational it might seem to a lot of us, he was saying it, making a statement with his life that we need to do something about this. We can't keep on standing on the sideline not doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? They also killed this white woman named Ashley Lisby. She was pregnant with a baby, and the police ran her over and killed her as well. You know, so 4 people lost their lives. I'm counting that baby in that white woman's belly that we've been standing in solidarity with. We're not racist in the new African Black Panther Party. We stand with all nationalities. Our composition of the Rainbow Coalition is reflective of that. My passion is often confused with anger. Now, it's channeled anger in a positive direction to lead the people towards liberation. You know, some people felt like Malcolm was angry. He was angry, but he was passionate and he was educated. He was strategic. He was smart. So was Fred Hampton. So was George Jackson.
But between a black man, you know, you can barely differentiate the two.
Yeah, and you're right.
So you have to be very, very careful in how you deliver, because I understand you well, because I'm very passionate, but I had to even learn how to adjust that a little bit. And because the mission ultimately is about the mission, right?
Right, absolutely.
So you want to always make sure you deliver.
Right, but we have to, everybody has their own demographics they're speaking to.
Right.
When I speak, I'm mainly speaking to the streets and the prisons. That right there is the lumping proletariat force that majority of the people in the middle class has written off. You know what I'm saying? The lower upper class, they pit us all against each other. But a lot of people in the middle class left the black neighborhood, left the Latino neighborhood, left the Native American neighborhood, left the white lower class neighborhood, and they developed this petty bourgeoisie culture. You know what I mean? But me, I come from the bottom with the rest of the ones that's been, like Franz Fanon said, part of the wretched of the earth. Like Tupac Shakur said, the roads that grow from concrete. You know, that's what we are. So when we out here, we speaking unapologetic. We don't care if the black middle class, Latino middle class, the Latino, the Native American, the middle class white population don't like how we're talking. Well, you need to ask, what is more offensive? Is it my demeanor? Now, this is not directed to you, brother. I understand what you're saying. Is it my demeanor? Is it the fact that I'm a black, educated black man that's speaking strongly, unapologetically? Is that what you're offended by? Because it's a white supremacist system and you have internalized this white supremacist system and you don't think black people or Latino people or Native American people should be passionate about liberation that they've been oppressed by for 400 years? Because if that's what you're offended about, we can care less about that, because we're only speaking to the people that we see that can transform their criminal mentality, which was once a part of the problem, now part of the solution. If anyone come here in Indianapolis, everybody wants to join the the United Panther movement.
And see, you got me, you got Shakur, you got all of us. What I'm talking about is like when Malcolm was going to those colleges and you're right, speaking passionately, and he's seen it that way, that anytime we allowed, you know, another party into what we was trying to do and they infiltrated, you know, so I understood his thinking on that, but he got on a broader thinking when he went and took his Hajj. He seen God's people. He didn't see color, he didn't see race, he seen righteousness. And the point is to get to that righteousness, what I'm saying is you got me, you got us, and we can roll with that all day long. But how do you get those other people? Because that's what's going to tilt the scale. That's what's going to really get us to where we need to be.
To answer your question, I've never been in a situation where I took over the streets. I've been in situations after the fact and been a part of demonstrations like Terry Tillman. I did the situation up in Gary, Indiana called what's his name? Rashad Cunningham. Police killed him last year, August 17, 2019. But what I realized, not by theory, but actual social practice, in Indianapolis, anyone that comes here and want to understand how social movement creates a new matrix, creating a new matrix and stuff with social movements. Here in Indianapolis, we've never had a social movement, but now we open up a conversation with all those individuals that you're talking about. They're part of our Rainbow Coalition. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that made this happen. This is not something that we're theoretically looking at. This is actually what we actually did and still doing, and we're growing. We're growing across ethnic lines, and we're growing beyond various demographics. So here in Indianapolis, we're actually reaching some of those people that you're talking about in order to build a movement to transcend some of this. But I'm saying to put it in a larger context, we have to recognize that at the end of the day, we have different beliefs. I'm not a religious person. I'm not even a spiritual person. But like we said when we was taking over the streets, we said, look, just because we're not a monolithic community, but just because we have Christians, we have Muslims, we have Jews, we have Buddhists, we have atheists, we have vice lords, disciples. But one thing we have in common, we are the people. We are humanity. Mm-hmm. And what we're out here doing today, we're showing people how to relate to themselves differently. We're trying to change the conditions of our community where we put down the guns against ourselves and recognize we need to restructure our community and save ourselves and not rely on the system to do it for us. We got to do it for ourselves. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation, just if it was misunderstanding,
All right, thank you guys.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Hello, how everybody doing? It's the brother Kent. I just wanted to, this is the second part of this rally, and this right here is a call to action. The whole purpose and mission of this rally is purpose and mission of this rally is to change the mind frame of the activists out there. What I mean by change the mind frame of the activists out there is to take them from being reformists to become revolutionaries. And what we mean by being revolutionaries, we're not asking you to join Plus, we're not asking you to join the Panthers, we're not asking you to join any of these, any organization that's out there. We're asking you to just get involved as the people, because through the people, we have the strength. Now, the call to action, what we are looking for today, we are looking for you to get involved with the closest activists that you all know that are around you. If you are not around any activists that you know of, then it would be best for you to contact any of us that's on the line here. You know, this right here will be this part two of this prison revolutionary rally is the beginning of a movement, not just the part one and the part two rally itself. It is the beginning of a real movement that we ask and we ask and we look for other positive leaders to unite with us and to join us in this fight, in this battle, because that is what this is. You see what I'm saying? You cannot step foot upon these battlegrounds and think that you will be victorious alone. You see what I'm saying? You cannot step foot on these battlegrounds and feel that the oppressors, this capitalist society, will just free your loved one just because the system was not to free your loved one for anything. You see what I'm saying? So with this call, with these past today as well as yesterday, our mission is to unite us, is to bring us together and to establish lines of communication, to establish structure, to establish chains, coalitions, and things of that nature there to unite us from brother to a brother and sister to a brother and sister to a sister and organization to organization, from one state to the next, from one region to the next. That is our purpose of today as well as yesterday. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, if you listen to the things we had brothers and sisters that came on here and spoke about the juvenile sentencing, came in here spoke about mandatory sentencing, the COVID-19, all of these things. These are not issues that are just segregated towards one particular state or one particular reason. You see what I'm saying? These things are targeted toward all of us, the people. It's not just targeted us towards us being black or them being Hispanic or them being white and none of that there because within the color of the law, there is no real, within the lines of law, there is no real color. They're not looking at color. It's about making money with these people. You see what I'm saying? So we must unite. We must unify. All right. So we must unify. We must unify with one another in order to establish what we need to establish. You see what I'm saying? So therefore, what I'm gonna ask everybody to do is get in contact to leave your contact information, as well as we're going to leave our contact information inside of our group, as well as on these comments. You see what I'm saying? But we need all of you all to get involved the best way that you can, however way you can, whether it's by phone number, whether it's email, whether it's staying in contact with us on social media, or whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? Because we ain't just come here to do a whole lot of talking. That's the whole point about this here. It's the whole reason why we had revolutionaries come last, because this is the frame of mind that we want everybody to get to. You see what I'm saying? But with that being said, thank you all for being a part of all of this here. Thank you for listening to me, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna let you all continue on with what you're doing. But please, if you all want to get more involved, wherever you are, contact us, and wherever city that you are at, whether it's because we got brother Kwame in Indiana, we got sister Stephanie in New Jersey, we got brothers and sisters down in Mississippi, Tennessee. We spread out everywhere. So we ask you all, if you really want to get involved, please inbox, contact us, and continue within this fight. Peace and blessings to the multitude. All power to the people.